Take a few minutes right now and see who's in the room. Look around. There's always fresh new faces online and here in the room. Hi, guys. Hi. Welcome. Welcome again, if you've just joined us, to IMC Charlotte, Insight Meditation Community of Charlotte. My name is Thia Powers, and I'm happy to be back in Charlotte again. I've been home for 48 hours after being gone for a month in Woodacre, California, at the Spirit Rock Retreat Center. It's my first time being there, and it is such a beautiful, beautiful place. So tonight, I'd like to share a couple of the practices with you that I've been exploring for the past month while on retreat. And so our topic tonight is mindfulness as the vehicle to stillness. So what we just did, mindfulness, how it can take us all the way to a really deep and quiet and healing place, but not without a little bit of work. So the Dhammapada says about this, the mind is difficult to control. Swiftly and lightly, it moves and lands wherever it pleases. It is good, excellent, and auspicious to tame the mind, for a well-tamed mind brings happiness. So as any meditator quickly discovers, stillness is a key factor, if not the key factor, in taming the mind, experiencing that calm, aware clarity that meditation offers us, calls us to be still and focus on our task. So the physical stilling is just the beginning. Mind stillness can be a very elusive beast, as we all probably just experienced. We begin by stilling the outside of ourselves, creating good circumstances, coming to a quiet place, being with other people who have a similar goal, and we work our way from the outside in. The saying goes, if you can breathe, you can meditate. And I have found that mindfulness meditation is possible even in the middle of a busy airport, sometimes especially in the middle of a busy airport. But as I mentioned, this deeper stillness is much more than holding still. Although holding still is definitely part of it, stillness won't be forced. In fact, when we attempt to force ourselves to be still, we only get struggle. We can try, and I sure have, but I don't respond to that, to simply willing myself to be quiet and still. I have to align with my intention, to really sort of just give myself over to it, kind of give up on doing anything else. When we first sat to meditate, there were so many sounds in the room, and do you notice how your mind just goes right out to the sound? It wants to grab it. What's going on? Who is that? What's going on? That's just how we're wired. And eventually, I think, when we've been sitting a long time, those sounds happen, and they just happen as background, and sometimes we don't even hear them. We've dropped in so quickly and so deeply. So this is not simply sitting quietly with the eyes closed and a serene smile on our faces. That is not meditating, my friends, although for a long time I kind of thought it was. We've all been there. We look pretty good on the outside. We have good posture. We're really still and quiet. But inside, our minds are planning our next vacation, or they're thinking about a work project or a misunderstanding that we've had with one of our friends. Oh, and then we're back on the vacation, the sound of waves, soft breezes. There's a whole, video going on in there. wait, the breath, I'm supposed to be tracking my breath. And then we reel ourselves back in. No worries, I'm on it, I'm on it. And then before long, we're back off on some other trail. So here's where we remember that the Buddha knew this. He went through this too, and he gave us really detailed instructions for how to meditate. So these are found most concisely in the Satipatthana Sutta, and that translates to the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And there's an outline provided there for us, and it begins where we always begin. It begins with breathing. Since we're all breathing, check. It's a great place to start. But we soon find out that being willing to train the mind to focus on the breath and being able to train the mind to focus on the breath are 2 different things. Not only is focusing on the breath a very different task than what our brains are used to, it's both simple and difficult at the same time. And it can be so boring, right? I mean, really. But this very first skill of focusing on the breath really is the doorway into deep mindfulness. In Pali, this is called sati, S-A-T-I. So for all the above named reasons, a well-known part of the training is beginning again. Being focused on the breath, counting backwards with the breath, noticing a short breath, noticing a long breath, 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 breath. We steady ourselves. And then the waves, the sun, the seagulls. I have that new hat to wear at the beach. Wait, and we begin again. Some say these are the most repeated words in Buddhism. Begin again. Losing interest in the breath is a common thread for pretty much all meditators. This is why it's important to have a sense of humor, hold it lightly, know it's going to happen, and we begin to develop a lot of patience with ourselves and to be a very persistent person, quietly persisting. We lose the thread, we begin again. We lose the thread, we begin again. So this is a very, very important part for each of us. This is where we're building a mind muscle and the willingness to begin again. We gain more capacity to begin again. The willingness, it's not a big deal. We just dust ourselves off and jump back in. It's a great capacity to work on. The capacity to stay with the breath and to do the body scanning, feeling where the body is at any given time, how the body feels, really getting in touch with what your human container is telling you right now. Alignment with our nobler intention of training the mind is what we're doing. And perhaps most importantly, we're teaching ourselves how to be available for our own higher good. We're being our own advocate, basically, disciplined and surrendered at the same time. Back to that quote, the mind is difficult to control. Swiftly and lightly, it moves and lands wherever it pleases. It is good, excellent, auspicious to tame the mind, for a well-tamed mind brings happiness. Today I thought, is this too long to get tattooed on me somewhere where I can read it on a regular basis? I forgot to mention that while we're working on this, it's also preferable to begin again and again without judging yourself. Just be kind to yourself without blaming yourself, without trying to fix yourself, because we're all fine right where we are. We're all miraculous already. So keep it simple. Just say, whoops, I lost the thread. Let me find it. Let me weave mindfulness back in to what I'm doing right now. The good news is when we commit to this process of beginning again with some innocence and some intention and some degree of trust, effortlessness at some point begins to appear. Soon, and sometimes very soon, something begins to happen that's interesting. We hear that bell that we just heard, signaling the end time of our sitting, like we just did. And we realize, wow, I just meditated for 30 or 40 minutes, pretty much consistently present with my breath, with my body. I was fully engaged, and it wasn't that hard. And we feel aligned. We realize we are doing it. It's pretty cool. So we're now successfully engaging in that first foundation of mindfulness to train the minds to focus on an object. And this is the important part of our choosing. So that's huge. Usually we are kind of following the mind around, and it is choosing where it goes, and we reel it in and redirect it constantly. But the payoff to this practice is we now have a capacity for a friendly kind of mastery over our wild and willful minds. The paradox is, and if you know me, you know I'm always looking for the paradox. This is a combination of mastery and surrender, some kind of a balance of discipline and flow, and only you know how to titrate your inner awareness just right to find that sweet spot. So this is no small feat. As I said, this is our foundation for mindfulness meditation, and we can actually stay right here with this one skill and have a long and fruitful meditation practice, and many, many people do. You'll have a different feeling when you come out of a meditation sit where you have actually focused your mind for the best part of the time, as opposed to accidentally or intentionally letting your mind off leash and letting it wander. Although that can be very pleasant, when you have focused and achieved that mastery, there's a settled feeling, a deep, refreshed feeling, a knowing that right effort has taken place. This gentle, persuasive, inclining the mind to where we want it to go feels different than following the mind around for 30 or 40 minutes. So this foundation is crucial for deepening our insight, and you will find peace and wisdom here. But wait, there's more. The next part is essentially my field report on the elusive nature of stillness and how mindfulness, or sati, took me there this past month. Mindfulness is the vehicle, and there are degrees of mindfulness. So body scans for me are a very powerful part of this too. And some of you use those, some of you may not. I highly recommend it. It creates that felt sense of the breath in the body, the feet on the ground, sitting in the chair. I just spent the last 30 days practicing coming in and out of this state called stillness, reminding myself every day not to judge myself or others, not to compare myself to others, and not to think that I was fixing myself, as I noted folks that were sitting in this spacious and silent meditation hall, sitting still like mountains that never moved. I discovered that these people that were sitting so impossibly still had already been meditating for a month when I got there. They were on a 2-month retreat. This was the beginning of their second month. So it's pretty humbling, this path. And in my case, at least, I know that's a good thing. I thought, well, I'm an experienced meditator in my humble way. I thought, I've got decades of meditation practice under my belt. Samadhi, tranquility, wisdom, here I come. So day one, we get our schedule. Our day starts at 5. The first sit is at 5:30. And commences with 6.75 hours of sitting meditation and 4.75 hours of walking meditation every day. Not that I was counting. For the next 30 days. I decided I had to give it my absolute best shot. This is why I'm here, I kept whispering to myself. I have at this point in my life experienced much more positive than negative outcomes from these efforts in meditation. And so I'm fortunate to have what Philip Moffitt, one of the teachers there, calls verified faith. So at some point we just begin to experience things for ourselves, and we're all in once we have that felt experience. A little more context for you. There were roughly 90 plus people in this particular training. There were 5 highly skilled teachers and about 25 people working constantly just to feed us and provide the support we needed for all the background functions that are needed in a retreat of this size. And the conditions were present for a wonderful sustaining and being absorbed in mindfulness. As I said, this is a beautiful place. The part of the country is beautiful, and everything is arranged to support you in your practice. It rained almost the whole month, and even that supported us. Otherwise, I might have been outside hiking the beautiful trails around the meditation hall. Instead, we were all nestled into the meditation hall with glass walls, looking out at the rain and listening to the rain on the roof. One more thing, and this is my favorite part. The floors of this meditation hall are heated. On those cold and rainy mornings at 5:20 a.m., nothing, and I mean nothing, could get me to my spot faster than the promise of a gently preheated meditation cushion. So all is ready. We've got the schedule, we've got the heated floor, we've got our staff to support us. Cue the hindrances. With all the support in the world, finding stillness is not always an easy task. We're wired like animals. We seek, we listen, we desire, we anticipate, we're curious. This is why we're given lots and lots of instructions in the 4 foundations of mindfulness teachings. And in this retreat, we had instructions every single night to keep us on track. By the way, the Buddha repeatedly refers to those who have not taken mindfulness training as the uninstructed worldlings. And I find this term humorous. I'm pretty sure that he was not being mean. I think he was just being honest. From his perspective, seeing us caught up in our lives with all of our stress and disappointments and cravings, and not knowing a way to be any different, not having any instructions or clues about the fact that we are basically causing our own suffering. Until we know better, we're simply ignorant of the ways to change what I call this traveling clown show that we call life. We've all been there, right? So the theme of the retreat was Satipatthana Sutta, which I said translates to the teachings on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Each night we gathered just like we're gathering here. We meditated together, and then we listened to a Dharma talk from one of the teachers. This has been happening just like tonight for over 2,500 years in a very similar way, with maybe not such a nice building. That is a lineage, an amazingly rich tradition of Theravada or Thai forest or Burmese or Vipassana teachings. They're all woven together around this theme of ending suffering, of finding stillness and lasting happiness with mindful meditation. So back to the hindrances. They're actually our friends and our teachers, because it's sticking with them that actually gets us further on the path, beginning to understand them and using our mind muscle to just be with them, that brings our greatest rewards. So we know the hindrances as thoughts about food, about pleasure, about other pleasant things, about angry or jealous thoughts, about people and situations. Hindrances can be worried thoughts and fidgety bodies to go along with the worried thoughts. Or it can be sleepiness, boredom, dullness. And the cherry to top it all off, one of the main hindrances is the thought, what the heck am I doing here anyway? Am I meditating? Is this meditating? How exactly do I know? That's also referred to as doubt. So as I mentioned, I soon discovered that after walking to this meditation hall through the usually dark, cold, rainy morning, under the stars, owls and frogs still talking, I would be greeted by a pre-warmed cushion and heated floors. Oh, whose brainchild was that? With layers of soft clothes and my wool wrap, I was soon tucked into my seat and absolutely loved these quiet starts to each day. Until, after the first week of solid meditations, I began to feel like a thick, warm fog was silently wrapping around me, pulling me down. Sleepy, so sleepy. Those heated floors were working against me now. How can I shake this delightful pull towards Neverland? I soon resorted to snapping my eyes open, controlling my breath, slow, deep breathing, invoking all the factors of awakening that I could think of over and over to get my mind to engage with the Dharma. I had to do all this waking up just so I could go back to calming my mind back down again and getting it back out of gear, just to overcome sleepiness. Many times, beginning again. That was my drill. Overcome the soft dullness that sleepiness was bringing, engaging with the Dhamma, then making my way back into mindfulness, being with the breath and body. That was not the last time that the hindrances would show me their might. Fortunately, there was nothing else to do. That's why I was there, was to work with them. I must have said 100 times, honey, this is why you're here. This is why you're here. About 2 weeks in a late night Dharma chat, I got the secret teaching, quote unquote, that I'm about to share with you. This is when I actually began to feel a deeper nourishment from my practice. I was able to drop into a more intimate relationship with knowing my practice. And I was finally practicing my practice, not practicing to get results. Big difference. So the first part of the secret teaching is to simply find refuge in the stream of simple experiences. Never-ending stream. So that's formally said as all conditioned things exist. Just be fully present to this. Being a good witness of your own existence right now, with eyes, ears, and heart wide open. Functioning with generous awareness, and most importantly, being easily satisfied. Easily satisfied. This is how we find refuge in the stream of our existence. Secondly, knowing without a doubt that every single part of this conditioned existence will rise up, have its time, and then pass. And you can look for the proof of that in the ongoing rhythm of your life. I invite you to do so, looking at this breath, this day, which is already passing, these thoughts, most of which you won't even remember probably when you leave the room. I hope if somebody says, what was that Dharma talk about? You can at least have some clue. You'll at least remember a little bit, but the rising up and passing away that constitutes all things. Third, we focus on the passing nature, the inevitability of the passing nature of each experience. Noticing each breath, each pleasant or unpleasant thing, or even noticing neutral things as they shift into pleasant or unpleasant things. Being with the passing nature of each and everything with no attachment, no worries, noting this is simply the way it is. This is the nature of nature. So living in this stillness, this is the fourth part of this, of the knowing of passing, is living into a very quiet and full happiness that does not pass. It can be a constant in your life. This is the equanimous stillness that the Buddha passed into. It's present whenever we're not overinvested in things that dissipate, and everything dissipates. So it's in this teaching that we experience the knowing that impermanence offers perennial freshness. The formula that I just mentioned is true for all conditioned things. So please, please check it out. As an aside, I believe it was offered as a secret teaching just to entice us students to stay up late for the last meeting for the evening. It's called A Secret in Plain Sight by Bhikkhu Analayo, who states that this formula is one that is found all throughout the Buddha's teachings, hundreds of times. This profound truth is also found in a 4-line chant offered in Theravada and Thai forest monasteries to this day. It has been said that this was the chant offered on the evening of the Buddha's passing. And this is the chant. Conditioned things are impermanent, anicca vata sankhara. To rise and fall is their truth, upadavaya dhammino. It sounds like Latin. Having arisen, they will cease, upajitava nurujanti. This is the stilling that brings happiness, tesam vupasamo sukho. So this is the chant that we ended the evening with at the retreat, over and over. I have a few copies of this chant if you're interested in it, and there's a link to it on YouTube that I'm happy to provide so you can hear it. It's hauntingly beautiful, and it's how many monasteries end the day. So we're at time, we're a little over time. Mindfulness or sati as the vehicle for stillness, and the open secret teaching is our topic of investigation. I hope that it spurs something for you that bears some fruit. It's so good to be home with my community, and I really appreciate your patient listening tonight, your kind attention. Thank you.